It's the Fix California Hour on the John Phillips Show. Johnny's back on Thursday. It's Randy Wang here, and the phone number to join us is 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. You can email us at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com and search for the John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts. Our next guest is the LA City Council member for the 11th District. That is the West Side and Venice, and she is running for re-election in 2026. Traci Park, welcome back to the John Phillips Show.
Hey, Randy, how you doing?
Doing great. Let's start off with, because it is still at top of mind for everybody listening, how is the recovery going in the Palisades we've hit the 10-month mark this week?
We have, Randy, and it has just been a year that has been fraught with challenges, and, thousands of people continue to remain displaced. But I am also really encouraged by signs of progress. We completed one of the most comprehensive, fastest debris removals in the history of our country. We currently have fewer than 10 remaining properties that weren't cleared. Those are all in various forms of abatement procedures now. And the rate of new starts on construction in the Palisades is really moving. We are now at about 350 houses that have broken ground. We have about another 1,000 permits that have been approved and about 2,000 more in the pipeline. So things are really starting to come together quickly. So I am pleased with that progress. Our Builders Alliance is about to go live, which is going to be an opportunity for people to work directly with pre-approved builders that is going to expedite the timelines even further and allow people to rebuild in a more cost-efficient way. We are finally moving into this century and adopting AI technology for plan check review. So there are definitely kinks, and there are things that we can and we need to do better. And there's still a lot of folks that are in need of a lot of help to have a pathway home. But we really are moving at incredible speeds. We have Calvary Christian is already back on campus. Marquez Elementary is back on campus. Pali High is looking to be back in January or by spring. Our library, rec center, our public parks are all in the process of redesign. We are looking at 2028 timelines to have most of those major amenities done and delivered back to the community. I am confident we are going to set records with this recovery.
When we talk to fire victims that either call into the radio station or they email us, we usually hear the same thing, that, the removal process, that worked out pretty well. Even permitting hasn't been that difficult. But the biggest hangup for so many people has been, even 10 months out, that it's still so difficult to get a settlement with their insurance company, whether their home burned down or is just unlivable because of smoke damage, whether they were with State Farm or the California Fair Plan, they're still not being made whole. Are you hearing the same thing from your constituents?
I absolutely am. And the ongoing insurance issues and access to affordable capital to help people who do not have enough resources cover the cost of rebuild is where the challenges remain. On the insurance issues, for people that have to do smoke remediation damage, in some cases that is literally taking down the drywall, removing floors, replacing ventilation. These are hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I have generally heard pretty much nothing but complaints about delays with the insurance companies there. We're having a lot of issues, of course, now with, the adequacy of payouts for people. And we know that thousands of folks were under and uninsured, and trying to cover that gap on the cost of the rebuilds is really hard. And I'll give you an example. So one of the condo complexes in the Highlands, the Upper Woodies, just made the very, very painful decision to have to sell. They were looking at about $650,000 per unit special assessment just to cover the cost of the rebuild. They were State Farm underinsured. The lower Woodies are actually in the FAIR plan, same scenario, same special assessment to rebuild, but it's the FAIR plan. And, in order to get their benefits, they have to rebuild, but people don't have the funds. And so one of the things that I am continuing to do, and unfortunately both of these issues are just a tad out of my reach as a city council member, but that insurance reform and access to capital. And I am working directly with the governor's office, with our partners in the state legislature, and across the banking industry to try to merge together the resources that we are going to need, because it is my mission in life to make sure that every displaced victim of this fire has a viable pathway home.
There was a pretty explosive report last week in the New York Times that talked about our current state insurance commissioner, Ricardo Lara, and the sweetheart deals that he made with the insurers while crafting his sustainable insurance strategy that actually incentivized them in 2023 and 2024 to drop as many policies as possible. In wake of that report, a whole bunch of Palisades and Eaton fire survivors banded together, held a press conference last week calling for Ricardo Lara to step down and for Gavin to pressure him to resign. Do you have confidence in Ricardo Lara as a state insurance commissioner?
I think that there is no question that the insurance crisis in California has been mismanaged for years. And I think that voters are going to have a lot to say when it comes to the election in 2026. We have an opportunity to select a new insurance commissioner. And in light of the recurring situation that we have seen across all of California over the last decade, and Randy, it is easy to hate the insurance companies. I have a lot of bones to pick with them myself. But at the end of the day, they weren't wrong. Their predictions about all of this have been correct year after year. And they have continued to face billions of dollars in losses. And frankly, what we need to do as a state is identify what it is going to take for us to incent the insurance companies back into a competitive marketplace. We have got to deal with the brush clearance issues. We have 40 years of accumulated dry fuel on state-owned land around California. And 99% of these catastrophic events start on state land. Here at the city level, we keep putting that burden on individual property owners. The fire department sends a notice to clear the brush. If the property owner doesn't do it, we hire contractors and we send a bill. I sit on public safety committee where those appeals go. We are merciless. We don't accept excuses and we enforce. But upstream, nobody's cut a fire line in decades. And we have seen the catastrophic results of that play out again and again and again in California and elsewhere. And so I think that there is so much that needs to be done to address the insurance situation holistically. And I'm looking forward to work with a new set of partners who are going to put a fresh set of eyes on this and get serious about what we need to do.
We're speaking with LA City Councilwoman Traci Park. In the last few weeks, we've learned a whole lot about the origins of that devastating fire, including the arrest that was made of the man that started the fire on January 1st, the Lockman fire. A couple of weeks ago, we got an explosive report out of the LA Times that firefighters were putting out that fire, and even though they were texting the battalion chief that there was still smoldering, they could still sense that this fire wasn't completely out, they were called back. What is your reaction to those reports?
My frustration level is through the roof. My disappointment level is through the roof, but I'm also not entirely surprised to hear it. It is consistent anecdotally with what my own constituents were saying back in January, that there had been additional smoke and fire activity between January 1st and January 7th. And so to learn now, to have it confirmed that these issues did in fact exist, and to know that warnings about it were dismissed, it's beyond disappointing and infuriating. And I understand how incensed residents are over this. We have all of this technology, drones that you can use that are heat-seeking to identify hotspots, and to know that none of that technology was used. It only reinforces the questions about knowing that we've got it confirmed at the very least that there was smoldering or smoke activity in the area on January 3rd, knowing that, where were the water tenders on January 7th? Knowing that also the water system was compromised. Where was the extra deployment? Why weren't those things, or were those things taken into account when the deployment and staging decisions were made? We still don't have those answers. And that is why I said from day one that the fire department absolutely should not be investigating itself, given the magnitude of what happened. And, I'm not surprised one bit that the after action report that came out was incomplete. And frankly, it left most of us with more questions. So there are a number of other investigations that are ongoing, as well as the outside independent investigation that I requested and the city council approved back in January, that is going to ensure that every question is answered and will also serve as a peer review to the other investigations and reports to ensure that all of the conclusions have been adequately reached and are supported by the evidence. But yes, this has just been a frustrating, devastating, heartbreaking week. And to know that this fire was intentionally started by a human being and that it could have been prevented had potentially some other interventions and efforts been made, it's hard to get your head around, Randy.
We're speaking with LA City Councilwoman Traci Park. You can follow her on Twitter, Traci Park 4LA. When Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, was sworn in 2023, the first thing that she did, the end of 2022, the first thing that she did, her first action was to declare a state of emergency on homelessness. Last week, she ended that state of emergency. What does that mean?
Well, it restricts back the emergency powers that were delegated to the executive office. I don't know that it's necessarily going to make much of a difference one way or another on the ground. Ending the emergency order certainly doesn't end the crisis. We still have thousands of people living on our streets. And at the end of the day, I support the accountability, but we have an urgent need for enforcement, for mental health beds, and for measurable results. So whether there is an officially declared emergency or not, those are the things that I am going to continue to fight for. The mayor, I will say this, has used this time to get the Inside Safe program up and running. And, I understand that there is controversy about it. I am certainly willing to recognize that it is an expensive obligation in a time, especially when funds are tight. But I want to credit, at least some of the success that I've had here in the West Side to my partnership with Inside Safe and the mayor's team. We've been able to address a number of very, very challenging encampments through the program. And we've been able to successfully maintain those areas, in large part because of my enforcement of 4118 here on the West Side. But the differences that it has made in the lives of the entire community, to be able to have our parks back and our sidewalks, and to be able to let your kids ride their bikes to school or walk to school, that tourists can safely come back to Venice Beach, our city's #1 tourist destination, there's almost no dollar amount that you can put on the value in that.
And of course, one of the passion projects that you've had since you got sworn in now 3.5 years ago was dealing with the RVs that were in the Bologna wetlands, as well as other parts of Venice, and of course, the whole thing with van lords. What are some of the challenges in still trying to deal with those problems?
Yeah, well, we've had definitely a lot of success with the issue over here on the west side. I have some parts of my district, like Westchester, where we have actually seen a 40% reduction in vehicle dwelling. But it has definitely been a more difficult problem to solve than the tent encampments. With the street and the tent encampments, at least we have our Safe Schools and Parks Ordinance, Section 4118, that we can use to regulate our sensitive shared public spaces. We don't have a similar tool when it comes to governing vehicle dwelling. And there's a lot of reasons, lawsuits and other bureaucratic and lack of leadership excuses, frankly, for that. But I've been trying to plug the gaps where I can. You mentioned the van lords. I presented a motion to request an ordinance to, ban that practice on our city streets. These are these unscrupulous individuals who buy these unsafe, unsanitary junker RVs off of salvage lots and then use them to create RV encampments and blight in our community. This legislation will close the loophole on that and outlaw that practice. We've also worked very closely with Assemblymember Mark Gonzalez to make a change to state law, which was actually just signed by Governor Newsom, that will now allow us to mandate a lot of the most dilapidated of those vehicles to the recycler instead of having to put them back on the auction lots, which is where the van lords come and get them, and which is what keeps them in circulation. So I've been working on that. And then here on the west side, we use a combination of service providers who specialize in vehicle dwelling. We've seen some success with them here on the west side. We also work very closely with DOT and LAPD to do as much enforcement as we can. I wish we had more resources to do more of it. But here in the west side of Los Angeles, we actually account for about 30% of the impounds citywide. So, we are definitely trying to change the culture and work within the legal lanes that we have. But I am holistically pressing for changes to this as a city. At the end of the day, we are not an RV park. We are not set up to accommodate long-term camping or living on our public streets. And, you've seen in San Francisco, they have just, put 2-hour parking restrictions citywide as an effort to combat the RV crisis there. I worry that if here in LA we don't do something fast to catch up, this problem is only going to get worse. So, I'm doing as much as I can, and I'm going to bring the same energy and focus to this problem that I brought to the tent encampments. And we have very, very few of those left here in Council District 11.
I have definitely noticed that over the last few years. Traci Park, the LA City Councilwoman for the 11th District. She is running for re-election in 2026. The website is cd11.lacity.gov if you need constituent services. Traci Park, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Always love being with you, Randy. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. It's Randy Wang on The John Phillips Show. It's Randy Wang here. The phone number to join us is 800-222-5222. The email is Randy. Nope. I did it again. I have a different email for my local 5 o'clock show on KABC. And sometimes the brain resets. The email is johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts. How about I got something nice for you right now. 790 KABC welcomes the Village People to the Canyon and Agora Hills on November 21st. Tickets are on sale now at AXS.com, but right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-790-5222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by the Canyon, where music meets the soul. Good luck dialing. It's Randy Wang on The John Phillips Show. It's Randy Wang here, and the phone number to join us, 800-222-5222. 1-800-222-5222. You want to email us, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts. And if 3 hours of this isn't enough for you, I do a 1-hour show, 5 to 6 p.m. on KABC in Los Angeles, AM 790 or KABC.com. So you can also listen to that. It's time for a tale of two different schools. One completely out of control, and one that sounds really strange at first, but might be brilliant, albeit expensive. First, we go to Modesto, where it may be one of those situations where policies of not wanting to discipline out-of-control children have made it so the crazy kids are running the school. For more, here's a report from CBS Sacramento.
Madness in Modesto schools.
Madness in Modesto. Now there's some alliteration for you.
Madness in Modesto schools. Teachers say classrooms are being turned upside down with some students destroying supplies.
What?
They're breaking the pencils, the pens, the crayons.
What a mess. They say a lack of consequences is even making things worse. Your reporter covering Stanislaus County, Nina Byrne.
They're taking the protractor and they're throwing it right at the wall like they're playing darts. Do they still have those things?
What a mess. They say a lack of consequences is even making things worse. Your reporter covering Stanislaus County, Nina Burns, joining us live with the policy they say is now backfiring, Nina.
That's right, Marley and Steve. Now, teachers say the current discipline policy, which is PBIS, is supposed to...
Wait, that sounds like a medical condition that we probably do ads for here. Oh, did I get the letters backwards?
That's right, Marley and Steve. Now, teachers say the current discipline policy, which is PBIS, is supposed to reward students for good behavior, but they say it has the opposite effect, and it is currently rewarding students for acting out.
So this isn't the Gold Star system? What is going on in Modesto?
This is typical of our TKK classrooms.
Destroyed classroom after destroyed classroom. That's what Modesto City School District teachers say is a common occurrence.
It's a post-COVID.
Wait, so these are the 4- and 5-year-olds that are doing this? TK is 4, right?
That's what Modesto City School District teachers say is a common occurrence.
It's a post-COVID world, if you will.
But wait, some of these kids were like born during COVID. So they weren't sent home from school, but okay, let's hear her out. What is the post-COVID mindset for TK and kindergarten?
President of the Modesto Teachers Association, Jennifer McGrath, says the trend in violence and destruction in students peaked after the pandemic, when students came back to a different set of rules.
Coming back to school was not easy. And so the school districts had to do a lot of...
Yeah, I don't know. If you were a parent of small children during 2020, 2021, and in LA, 2022, what a mess. Like, that completely may have screwed up your kids.
And so the school districts had to do a lot of quick fixes to be able to get these kids to come back to school. We kind of lessened a lot of the requirements for the students.
You know how we get the kids to show up? Lower the standards. And by the way, when we're talking about 4- and 5-year-olds, what are the standards? Like, you've got to be wearing clothes? You've got to know how to use the potty?
And it doesn't take kids long to figure out that if there's a system, they're going to look for the easiest way out.
I mean, this is true. I've been doing it my whole life.
PBIS, or Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports, is...
Anything in California with an acronym probably does the opposite.
PBIS, or Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports, is the new norm, instead of what traditionally was suspension.
The children are not...
Okay, so this is what's going on here. See, when you had remote school, you had a lot higher attendance. And I remember this at LAUSD. If a child just clicked on the seminar and was there for 5 minutes, they were counted as there for the day.
That is fantastic.
Which means that the school got paid for that day.
We demand higher pay.
Which means Cecily got paid for that day.
Get that money.
but they weren't really there. So now when you're in physical school, you've got to be there the whole day to get counted. And if you're acting out or you're a brat and you get sent home, no pay for that day.
But let us keep it real.
So instead, let's find ways to not punish the bad kids because we need that money.
The children are not learning when they're sent home. They should be in school. And so that's why this practice got put into place. It's an alternative to try to deter behaviors in a positive way.
So when a child destroys...
Wait, but what's the deterrent?
So when a child destroys a classroom like this, they're sent into the office.
What's been happening is they get counseled, and then they would come back with a bag of chips, or they would come back with a juice box or a prize.
Okay. I don't know if if you're from my generation, you grew up with The Simpsons. And The Simpsons had brilliant writers on it. Brilliant writers who, in the 90s, jokingly predicted things that would happen. And the thing that you say when you hear something that happened in real life, but The Simpsons joked about it 30 years ago is, Simpsons did it.
And then they would come back with a bag of chips, or they would come back with a juice box. Or
there was an episode of The Simpsons, it's probably 30 years old, where Bart gets the principal of Springfield Elementary fired from his job. Principal Skinner loses his job and then goes into the Army. That's not part of the episode that's relevant. The school board decides to replace him with Ned Flanders as the principal. And Ned Flanders does not believe in discipline, which means the bad kids are running the school. And this is true. Kids were purposely getting sent to the principal's office, to Ned Flanders' office, because if you went to his office, he had candy and snacks there for you. Simpsons did it.
And then they would come back with a bag of chips, or they would come back with a juice box or a prize or something.
Something McGrath says rewards the wrong type of behavior.
You are literally, and by the way, 4 and 5-year-olds, their whole life is snacks. They don't eat actual food. Meals are not allowed. But snacks, juice box, Z-Bar, oh yeah. Little bunny crackers, give it to me. Their whole lives revolve around snacks. Let me just say, with the little time that I've had around small children in the last few years from being an uncle, you can offer a small child a meal or you can offer them a snack, and they'll always want the snack instead. So now if the principal's office is offering snacks as your punishment because you're getting sent to their office and they're walking back with the juice box, you're telling all the other kids, oh, if you want a snack, you need to be bad. Who came up with these policies?
So you're reinforcing to the other students, well, bad behavior pays off because that child got a prize.
Bad behavior.
I know we have a lot of people who work in the teaching world who listen to this radio station up and down the state of California. What do you think of this policy? If you or a family member work in any aspect of education, you work with small children, what do you think of what's going on in Modesto, where the way to reward bad behavior and to disincentivize bad behavior is giving the bad kids snacks? Does this make any sense to you? 800-222-5222. 1-800-222-5222.
Bad behavior, an issue many teachers shared during Modesto City Schools' latest meeting.
He has destroyed the classrooms multiple times each day, and he's able to...
By the way, notice that every single one of these problem students is a he. Little boys are monsters. Little girls are sweet.
And he's able to come back to our classrooms where we've had to evacuate our students' behaviors.
Wait, you had to evacuate the students because one kid went rabid? One kid went feral because he wanted some bunny crackers? Or maybe a go-go squeeze? I know a lot about what small children eat nowadays.
And he's able to come back to our classrooms where we've had to evacuate our students.
Behaviors like hitting, biting, and twisting fingers.
Whoa! Yeah, that's not good. And do the parents get notified that your child bit somebody, so the answer was goldfish?
Like hitting, biting, and twisting fingers of both staff and students or destroying property are being overlooked and given a lighter sentence.
They are scared.
We are setting these little kids up for success.
Desks get flipped, chairs and objects are...
Wait, how strong are these small children? Shouldn't a 4-year-old not be powerful enough to flip a desk?
Desks get flipped, chairs and objects are thrown, staff and students get punched and kicked.
So you don't expel or suspend or punish the student for physically attacking another student? What is this, juvenile hall? It sounds like the same rules and regulations that we see at Los Padrinos.
Students elope, garbage can...
Wait, what?
Students elope.
She doesn't mean that, right?
Students elope, garbage cans and signs knocked over, bathrooms...
I don't think she meant that the 4 and 5-year-olds are getting married real quickly.
Students elope, garbage cans and signs knocked over, bathrooms destroyed.
Oh, my. You know what? I don't think we pay our school janitors enough.
Staff and students cussed out.
Issues, McGrath says, were...
Wait a second. Where did they learn those words? What's going on with the parents in Modesto?
Staff and students cussed out.
Issues, McGrath says, were 5 years in the making.
A lot of the norms that used to be in the classrooms as far as just some basic concepts, responsibility, respect, just following the basic rules, they were out the window.
But she's hoping...
What happened to the timeout chair? That's not allowed anymore? Or you go back to Super Nanny, the naughty stool. Where's the naughty stool?
They were out the window.
But she's hopeful the school district...
By the way, this is one of the reasons why I'm so glad that I'm an uncle and not a parent. I couldn't deal with this. I don't know how to discipline a small child. I like to just be the fun one.
They were out the window.
But she's hopeful the school district and staff will start to work towards a solution. In a statement to CBS 13, Modesto City School District says, "We have heard our teachers' concerns about student behavior, and we want our community to know we are listening. Districts across our state and country are facing similar challenges, and we are working together to strengthen support for both students and staff."
Doesn't sound like it. Sounds like you have a policy that is incentivizing completely insane behavior. Is this what kindergarten is like now? What happened?
Some things have to change so that we can start educating again.
Now, the district will host meetings to figure out how to solve this problem. But one of the ideas the Modesto Teachers Association is going to bring up is bringing back the code of conduct, something they say has fell to the back burner since COVID.
They don't have a code of conduct. Well, I'm sure that'll do it. If you are connected to the education world in any way, whether you're a teacher, you're an administrator, your spouse is a teacher, you deal with small kids for a living, what do you think about what's going on in Modesto schools? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Does this policy make any sense where if kids are violent and they start cussing out teachers, their punishment is they go to the principal's office where they get a snack? I'm missing something here. What is going on? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. If you want to weigh in on what's going on in Modesto schools for kindergartners, I got to hear from you. 800-222-5222. We'll take your calls next. It's Randy Wang here on The John Phillips Show. It's Randy Wang here. We're taking your phone calls, 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. What is going on with kindergarten post-COVID? In Modesto, the schools now have a policy where if small children are violent, destructive, cursing out, I just learned what eloping means, leaving class without permission, they get a snack from the principal. And there's no punishment. How does that make any sense? If you work in education, is this happening in your district? What is going on? Let's go to Mark in Morgan Hill. Mark, hello.
I got to get this call. Yeah.
Hey, you're on the air.
Okay, so I taught high school. It's been 25 years, but kids would get suspended for fighting or doing something they weren't supposed to, and they'd get suspended, 2 or 3 of them, and then they'd all hang out the next day because they didn't have to go to school and just have a good old time. Well, those are probably the people today that are implementing those rules because nothing happened to them back then.
That's a very good point. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. Let's go to Dee in Sacramento. Dee, hello.
Hi. Hey, you guys are behind on the news. This was actually a topic of conversation on a talk show in Austin last week. Modesto's gone nationwide. But when my kids were small, there was in their school a rule that if your child became violent at school, the parents would have to come and spend the day with their child in school for 1 week before their kid could come back without their parent. And not too many parents can afford to take that kind of time off of school. And the problem isn't a school problem. It's a problem at home. These kids don't learn to misbehave in school.
Oh, no. If the parents are putting up with this behavior, then of course it's going to translate to what goes on when they send them off to kindergarten.
Absolutely. And that, you can say that doesn't solve the problem sending the kids. What about the rest of the kids? They have a right to an education, and we need to protect them and ensure that they get their right to an education. So let the parents deal with their problem brat.
I think you make a really good point. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. Now, full disclosure, because it actually breaks my heart to hear that we weren't the first show to cover something. I downloaded this story and put it on the rundown on December 22nd. We just never got to it because of all the Prop 50 stuff. But that's why I keep a backlog. I knew at some point we were going to have time to talk about this Modesto school district. But I definitely downloaded it first. I'm first on everything. Let's go to George in Sierra Madre. George, hello.
I'm chuckling, but I really shouldn't. I was a teacher for 30 years, and it was a special education class. And there was a really skinny, weak-looking girl that started working her arms like a windmill and beating up one of my aides who was significantly shorter than her. I went in and grabbed one of the arms, and the other one still went flying and got a good 10 or 15 whacks on both of us. And afterward, we had a meeting and talked to the principal about it, and the principal told me that I was not supposed to intervene in that because I did not have the violence certificate. I should have just left the classroom and watched my aide get beat up. Well, turns out my aide had the certificate, and she was totally ineffective. So that's where we are.
That is complete insanity. Thank you so much for sharing that story, George. Appreciate it. By the way, if you don't get to your call this hour, we're going to take calls right at the top because I got to know more about this. I want you right now to react to what is going on in Modesto schools where we're talking TK and kindergarten, 4- and 5-year-olds are getting incentivized to trash the classrooms, to be violent towards other kids and to educators, to cuss them out, to leave class because the only punishment is they go to the principal's office where they get a snack. Does this make any sense whatsoever? Is this happening in your district? 800-222-5222. Let's go to Sherry in, Newhall, where I'm from. Sherry, hello.
Hi, Randy. Unfortunately, it's in your neck of the woods, too.
This happening at the Newhall School District?
Well, not Newhall, but another one out here, Sulphur. Well, I probably shouldn't say it. But just this last year, there was a kid, same thing. They take him out for a swing. He gets to ride on the swings when he gets upset. He goes to the principal because eating calms him and soothes him. That's the rationale. These are the psychologists at the school. I don't know. They just don't believe in a negative consequence anymore.
It's so wild. I mean, you know how you tell a dog they're good? You feed them. I know that just from being a dog owner. You were incentivizing the wrong thing. Thank you so much for the call. We're out of time. Get on the line right now. 800-222-5222. 1-800-222-5222. What do you think of Modesto School's discipline policy? It's Randy Wang on The John Phillips Show.